absolute key is what? The key is destinations. In order to not be a 45-year-old that doesn't have any kind of career, that has no equivalent of this, you have to have destinations for your work. And if you're waiting for other people to provide you with destinations for your work, it's over. But I know from experience that most VPs of design hate themselves. Work does not exist in a vacuum. Completely true. I used to have a theory that all designers either died of stress or committed suicide at age 40. You can't simply just say, it. Money means nothing. Money, shit. That's for suckers, dude. So this is a comment response video for episodes 140 and 141. I received a really fascinating comment that I'm going to show now from an individual whose name is going to remain anonymous. I asked them if I could use their name and they said no. But they said it's cool to use my comment. So this was a personal text message to me and said, so I watched it before it was deleted. They're referring to episode 140. And they said, and I was interested to hear an actual review of the Masterclass, but it wasn't so much a review as a synopsis of an event that happened between the two of you 30 years ago. Right. That's exactly one of the reasons why I deleted the original episode. It's like some personal story between David Carson and me. I mean, who gives a fuck about that? No one gives a shit. And I found myself thinking, like, why would people be interested? And so this viewer is correct about that, right? But so then this person goes on to say, I have Masterclass and have deliberately not watched that episode because I figured I'd vomit in my mouth. A couple years ago, I got Masterclass for both my daughter and for me because there was, I think David Mamet has a class on there, and my daughter is in screenwriting or at NYU and dramatic writing and also in acting. I find Masterclass to be a bunch of YouTube videos that you're paying for. The idea that they're classes, they're not classes. And going back to the issue of how does David Carson address the issue of how do you thread the needle? How do you, working at the lower level of the pyramid and eventually end up breaking the rules? Those kinds of issues are being left out of nearly every one of the master classes. And so, like, when it says I figured I'd vomit in my own mouth, I feel very similarly that's a reaction that I have in a number of the videos. So admittedly, David Carson was an influence of mine in the early days, as was Ray Gun magazine. As a skate punk in New York, I remember seeing Ray Gun on the shelf and thought, holy shit, someone finally gets me. I have a collection of issues that started circa 1980, whatever, when honestly I didn't even know what graphic design was. This episode reminds me of my own brush with a design rock star back 2001, when I was interviewing at Yale. Now, I've redacted the person's name. It's not Sheila de Bretteville. It says, so-and-so called me a quote-unquote idiot savant in the interview. I told Sheila that I took offense to that and wasn't going to Yale, and she had so-and-so send me an apology. At the time, I was also a bit too big for my britches and replied and told him I thought he was an arrogant prick. Now, as you know, I didn't end up going to Yale, but I did get accepted. I think people love to hate on David Carson, even I do. I loved his stuff back in the day, but I can't even stand to look at it now. People do love to hate on David Carson, and I think there are two different reasons. Inside the design community there for a while, there was a huge amount of backlash to David Carson, and I think that, quite frankly, a lot of it had to do with this. A lot of it has had to do with the idea that I know more than one person who has a story that is at least in part similar, where, here's Ray Gun episode 01, and on the inside of it is my work. Now, I've blocked out a part of my work, right? And then there's someone else's work. And what the fuck is this type, right? And my name spelled wrong. And here's the actual piece that was cut up, not asking. So some of the criticism that has been levied at David Carson is of his own making and his own design, right? So a lot of people, but some of it is absolutely unfounded. But there's no denying his trailblazing influence. For that, he deserves respect. On the flip side, I don't think it's right for him or anyone to peddle false hopes to young and aspiring minds. It's easy to say, money isn't important when you're rich. It's easy to say, jump and the net shall appear when you know you have a safety net. It's easy to say, break the rules when you're at the top of the pyramid. Again, I've already addressed this, but the idea that, like when we're talking about this kind of design pyramid here, basically a pyramidal structure, right? And when you're working in the cube farm, that the rules that apply at the very top of the pyramid, when someone is coming to you for your own name, and when they're coming to you because they know that you're a kind of rebel or whatever you want to call it, they know what they're getting. That is completely different than when your design director comes to you and charges you with designing something for a client. Those are two different. Those are different structures. There are different dynamics at play. The master class that's in question doesn't address those issues at all, right? But further, Graphic design is no fucking picnic. It's a hard career, and most kids don't realize this. So having David Carson or anyone pump false hopes is ultimately doing people a disservice. Design school should be more like BUDS, which is Navy SEAL training or Special Forces. Then more people who really, really want to be there will stick with it, and the rest will drop out. And the people who make it through will actually be prepared for battle, because it is a fucking battle. Quite frankly, this is absolutely correct. A number, not all. I mean, I went to undergraduate design school. All of my friends, or many of them, went to undergraduate design school, and many of them are super happy in the field, and they work extremely hard. But like, you talk to any undergraduate design professor, and there are people that are sleepwalking through those fucking classes. And one of the reasons why I believe that they're in the graphic design field is because they just want a job, right? But they don't want to do they don't want to do something fucking hard like engineering that involves math. That's where this person's comment about BUDS, I think, really is on point, which is that the design field is a lot harder than people that are in graphic design school have any idea. The real meat of this individual's comment to me, that the most interesting component is right here, right? Which is that I used to have a theory that all designers either died of stress or committed suicide at age 40, because I didn't know any designers older than that. I'd ask friends, quote unquote, where are they? Show me a designer in their 40s. Well, now I'm almost 50 and still in the game. I did almost die, but I'm still here, and I often find myself thinking about how to age into this profession versus age out of it. At this point in my life, I'm not going to dental school or selling real estate, so I'm going to do what I do until I can't do it anymore. But the industry doesn't work that way. It's a young man's game. I'd love to see you do an episode on how to not age out of graphic design. And I don't mean like take a comfy job as VP of design at Pinterest, because that's the path many people take, and that's the destination lots of people think is nirvana. But I know from experience that most VPs of design hate themselves, and their day-to-day is meetings and bullshit and meeting and bullshit. I feel like DC should speak to this authentically. David Carson should speak to this authentically and not just blow smoke on Masterclass. Maybe he'd do a guest episode with you, and you could return the favor by misspelling his name and awkwardly cropping his work. These are some powerful ideas, or a powerful question, and it's completely true. I used to have a theory that all designers either died of stress or committed suicide at age 40, because I didn't know any designers older than that. I'd ask friends, where are they? Show me a designer in their 40s. Let's take a look at the AIGA's own data on this, right? Which is from 2019. So here we have the AIGA design census from 2019, understanding the state of design and the people who make it. And if we go to page 9, we can see here a stochastic diagram. Each dot represents a designer for those people who have responded to the survey. And if we go back and if we look at it, we can see a clear distribution of designers at that design is in fact a young person's game. And it is exactly what this individual discusses. People age out of this career. They specifically age out of making work. They age out of this. This is a color proof. This is a color proof of what I'm currently working on, right? Which is a 3-color screen print, right? Thomas Aquinas and Marcel Duchamp, right? People that are in their 50s or in their 40s, they age out of the material component of making work. And why is that? For two reasons. One is you can get the bag a lot easier being a manager. And the Peter principle kicks in. If you have no destinations for your work, making work like this makes no sense. The comment asked, I'd love to see you make, what did they say? I'd love to see you do an episode on how to not age out of graphic design. And I don't mean like take a comfy job. So how not to age out of graphic design. I've made a number of videos that I think are kind of about this subject matter. One is alpha versus beta designer. And the other one is how to get off of your mom's couch. A lot of the principles that I talk about in those videos, they apply to people that are in their 40s and 50s. The main advice that I would give is this one, which is solutions. It's no destinations, no work. Destinations for your work equal a vibrant career. Create destinations for your work, deadlines, and audience. And what does that mean? It means commitment. Commitments, deadlines, grow an audience, focus on studio habits. I can't stress this enough, which is work does not exist in a vacuum. Pieces like this, they only have meaning. They only have meaning when they are seen by other people, when they are shown, when they are an economic vehicle. So the biggest challenge for people as they grow inside of a studio is the notion that their own personal work, the material components of their own personal work, have no destination and have no economic vehicle behind them. One of the most important stories that I know about is from a famous artist who I know, who's about 45 years old, whose name will remain nameless. Earlier in their career, one of the things that they did, which was incredibly smart, was when they were not getting shows, what they ended up doing, when they had no way to exhibit their work, they got together with a small group of their friends and they mounted shows in one another's apartments. And they hyped the shit out of the shows. They created their own scene. They created their own commitments, deadlines, and scene. Now, how are you going to do that with a corporate job? Well, there is one other major component in this, which I address in the video, How to Get Off of Your Mom's Couch. There's another designer, artist who I know who's extremely successful, who has the capacity to make the work that they want to make and makes a tremendous amount of money off of it. Their name is going to remain nameless. But really, one of the apocryphal stories that they have relayed to me that is very similar to my own experience. They worked for a very famous artist for a while as a studio head, and they were so valuable to them that while their own career was popping off, they negotiated working from 5 days a week for this person, 4 down to eventually 3 to 2 to 1. This period where this artist was working both on their own work as well as for this other artist's work was incredibly physically demanding on them, took a toll on them. But what it did was launch their career. In my late 20s and early 30s, as my career was kind of taking off, I had friends who could buy nice cars and who were buying houses and who had a lot of money. And Darlene and I we didn't have that. But the thing that we did have was I had an exciting career and I had a lot of interesting shit going on. So there's a couple of issues. One is that in order to not age out, there has to be a type of person that you want to be, right? And that you're willing to kind of pay the price for, but you must be strategic about it. You can't simply just say, fuck it, money means nothing. Money, shit, that's for suckers, dude. You have to be strategic about it and be able to make a living, put food on the table. And so that idea of working for someone and working so well for them that you can transition from 5 days to 4 to 3 to working remotely or whatever it is, while you're getting your own work popping. But the absolute key is what? The key is destinations. In order to not be a 45-year-old that doesn't have any kind of career, that has no equivalent of this, you have to have destinations for your work. And if you're waiting for other people to provide you with destinations for your work, it's over. It is over. You're not going to have a career. So sound off in you're going to have a career, but you're going to have a career in managing people, which there's nothing wrong with. But when this person asks me where are the designers in their 40s and 50s, that's the answer to the problem. Is that the overwhelming majority of them take the bag and don't work through that phase of getting independent and building that and having an economic model under that. I've done a number of videos on the economic model that needs to be in place, the strategic thinking. Check it out. Sound off in the comments below. I try to make a comment response video 3 days after the drop of every conceptual video. So hit me up and hopefully this didn't suck. See you next time.